Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're going to talk about some WWE releases. And you may or may not have seen there's a number of WWE talents that have been released at the time of this recording earlier today. I don't know if this is a full list. This is a full list that I could get that was confirmed. What I want to do is kind of put a positive spin on that. I've seen a lot of why wasn't this person released, or how did this person keep their job but this person got released, or it's about time they let this person go. So I wanted to do the opposite. Basically, I'm going to go through these people and I'm going to think what could possibly be next for them, what their future may hold. Now, I'm probably going to get most of these wrong, but I think what I'll do is put them in where I would see them having their best fit, assuming that they all stay within the world of wrestling. Before I do get into that, I do want to bring something up. This is a quote I seen on Twitter, and it was from Steph DeLander, who formerly was Portia Parada in WWE, and I don't remember if she was released last year. I believe it was the year before, 2021. This was a quote from her, and I think it's perfect for anybody that was released today to look at her and see where she's gone and what she's done since being released. So this was a quote: "Getting released by WWE can be the best thing or the worst thing to happen to your career. The choice is yours, and my success proves that." I think that's perfect what she said. I think she's more popular now than she ever was in WWE. Yes, she might not be on TV every week, but I think the work she's doing, her and Matt Cardona, is really generating a different kind of buzz, and a buzz through the wrestling fans that's going to keep her career going for a really long time. With that being said, let's get into the list of today's releases. So this first grouping are Performance Center releases that I don't know too much about. So I'm going to put these all together as one. Bryson Montana, Alexis Gray, Daniel MacArthur, and Ulyssa Leon. And if I pronounce any of your names wrong, I do apologize. What I would recommend, and since I'm not 100% familiar with most of these, and chances are the reason they were released is they weren't progressing fast enough in their development, my recommendation would be for them to get in a high-end training school, something like Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, or with George South, who does some stuff with High Spots and has his own wrestling school. Glenn Jacobs and Tom Pritchard run a wrestling school that I think would be great for them to go to. If it was something they wanted to continue on their careers, that is the route I would take for them. I don't know that any of them, being that they're just coming from the Performance Center, are necessarily ready for a show or ready for even the indies. I would say go get trained. A year or two from now, go to a tryout, see if you could get back in, or decide where you go from there. Now from that, we're going to go into the people that I am aware of, people that I know, people that I have a good idea where I think they should go and where they would fit. First off, Shanky. I think this guy, unfortunately, has been saddled with some bad gimmicks and bad timing, and kind of portrayed in a way that he was never a focal point. He was more like a second or third wheel. I do think he's somewhat talented. I think he has a look to him. I think he has a style. It's said a lot that WWE tries to cater to the Indian market because there's so many fans in India. Any company that might pick up Shanky would be good to have him. I would say my fit for him right now would be the NWA. I think with the mix of talent that's there in the NWA, he could be right in the mix, kind of grow into himself, grow into his character, become something bigger than what he is now. I think that would be a great landing spot. Next up, Dabba-Kato, aka Commander Aziz. He's another guy that I don't think we got quite to see what his capabilities are or what his ceiling is. He's a huge dude. He looks impressive. Much like Shanky, I would recommend the NWA for him as well. I think that the style of wrestling that they do there is more conducive to the style that I've seen Dabba-Kato wrestle. And I'm not trying to say this in a bad way. It's more of a slower paced, a more old school style in a way that I think they'd work around him and he could get a lot of experience there. I think he could become a star there. They have some people that are large, so there are some of those monster versus monster meetings that he could go to that I think would work for him. Next up, Quincy Elliott. Quincy Elliott seemed to have an instant push when they switched over to NXT 2.0 and then kind of faded into obscurity. I think that they would have a great shot going somewhere like Game Changer Wrestling as their primary promotion. If you look at Game Changer, they're one of the most inclusive organizations there is in wrestling. Their fans will accept you pretty much as you are as long as you perform. I think this would be a great fit for Quincy. I'd love to see them show up in Game Changer. I think it would work really well. Next up, Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke always feels like, again, much like I said with Shanky, that she was always a second or third fiddle, never had any focus on her. And I don't think that's through any fault of her own. When she's been given opportunities, she's succeeded, she's thrived, she's proven she can get the fans behind her. I think Dana Brooke's best bet would be go to Impact, where women's wrestling is treated more seriously than almost any wrestling federation in the world. I think she could really show her talent, show what WWE missed out on, carve out a nice career there, have a career renaissance, where I think she would be a pretty decent star in Impact, and she would add to their already great roster of women's talent. Next up, Mace, or Mace, or one of the 8,000 other names they gave the poor guy. He got saddled with a terrible gimmick with the Maximum Male Models, and before that, Retribution. I mean, the poor guy. He's talented. I've seen him wrestle in NXT before any of the gimmicks, and he was a really talented wrestler. He has a natural charisma to him. He's a larger man as well. He has an imposing size to him. I think a good landing spot for him would be somewhere like MLW. I think getting him in the mix there with the Jacob Fatu's, the Alexander Hammerstones of the world, I think that would do wonders for him. Show him in a new, more serious light. I think he would be perfect for that company. Now, going from Mace, we're going to go to his partner, Mansoor. Mansoor, to me, again, another talented wrestler. A guy that I think could do almost anything in the ring. There's two routes I would take with him. If he wants to stay with Mace and maybe form a tag team, whether it be more serious or kind of do the male models on a different company, he could go to MLW with him, which I think that gimmick would work there. But if he decides to go off on his own, I think he would be perfect for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think getting him in there with some of the best junior heavyweights in the world, where we could really see his talent shine, where it's not necessarily your mic skills, but more of your athletic ability. I think he'd be a perfect fit for a group like Just Five Guys or Chaos. I think he would absolutely do great there. It would be fun to see him in their ring. Next up, Aaliyah. Now, Aaliyah's kind of one that's had an interesting career. It took her forever to get called up, and then when she was called up, I don't think she was ever really used properly. I mean, if you look at her, she's a gorgeous girl, first off. She's got that going. Second, I think she's decent in the ring. I don't think she's a top-level talent, but not everybody is a top-level talent. Not everybody's a Seth Rollins. Not everybody is a Rhea Ripley, and that's okay. I think Aaliyah, much like I said with Dana Brooke, would be best served to go to Impact Wrestling. They take care of their women's division more than any other company. If we really want to see what Aaliyah could do, that's the place to go for her. Next up, I would say one of my more disappointing releases of the day, Rick Boogs. I love Rick Boogs. Is it an 80s style gimmick? Yes. Is it a little bit on the campy side? For sure. But he just screams marketability. He's a guy that is perfect for a family-related show, a show that wants to bring more kids in. He's highly entertaining, and I think we barely scratch the surface of his in-ring skill. I think he's extremely skilled as well. He's a guy that I think we're going to see 5 years from now. He's going to be much like the Matt Cardona effect, where he's even bigger on the indies than he was in WWE, or where I'm about to say he should go. He's another person I think should go to Impact Wrestling. I think he would work well there. He would give them a little bit of an element that they don't really have right now. They're not heavy on sports entertainment type guys, and I don't mean that in a negative light. I mean that very positively. I think he could get in there and fit in and be that perfect guy. He's someone that I thought was going to be a WWE wrestler for a long time. Unfortunately, they decided to let him go. I think their loss would be someone like Impact's gain. Now, sticking with the musical wrestlers, Elias. This one was another shock to me. I thought Elias was going to be a WWE life. He had that vibe of someone like a Dolph Ziggler, and we'll get to him later, or a Hardcore Holly, or even a contemporary like Baron Corbin, who may not always be in the mix for the top spot, but he's always got a spot. because of how entertaining he can be. I think there's genuinely a few separate times where Elias has taken chicken crap and made chicken salad out of it with what they've given him, and he really carved a niche for himself, made himself very impactful, which leads me to think where he should go. Much like Rick Boogs, I think he should go over to Impact. He's a guy that I think would be mutually beneficial to both Impact and himself for him to be there. He would raise his stock in wrestling, all while bringing different eyes and bringing different fans to that company. I think he could be a big star, and I think this may be the start of that. Maybe kind of like Drew McIntyre getting out of 3MB. This could be his Drew McIntyre. Now, keeping with the musical side of wrestling, from Hit Row, Top Dollar. Top Dollar has transformed himself and shed a bunch of weight, put on a lot of muscle. He's training hard, he's working hard. Whether you love him or hate him, and I know there's a lot of people that don't like him, the effort that he puts in and the drive that he has is something that almost any company would want. Somebody like that is always going to strive to be better and try to get more and grab the brass rings like Vince McMahon once said. I think this is one where I don't necessarily think the fit is perfect, but I think he's going to end up there, and that's AEW. I think he'd be good in AEW. I think he's going to come over either to feud against Swerve or to team back up with Swerve and be part of Mogul Embassies. That's why I think you would bring him in either as Swerve's friend or Swerve's foe. I think he works either way. The reason I don't think it's a great fit in AEW is, I think it's sad to say, AEW hasn't really developed some of their wrestlers that they should have developed more. People that come to mind like Wardlow, that I think could have been a major star right now. He feels like he's stuck in park instead of being in the speeding lane on the highway. Kind of why I don't think Top Dollar is a great fit there, but I think it is where he is going to end up. Now, speaking of people I think will end up in AEW, Emma or Tennille Dashwood has a history with Ring of Honor. She has a history with some of the talent that's there, like Saraya, who's a good friend of hers. They came up together through NXT. I never quite understood where WWE missed the ball on her. And yes, it probably would be easy for her to go back to Impact, and there's a chance she's going to end up there. But I think being in a company like AEW and having that possibility to help their division grow, and I know AEW has tons of problems with their women's division, if they really want to get serious, adding someone like Emma can only help it, in my opinion. I think she'd be a great fit for them. I'd love to see them sign. Now, you can't speak of Emma without speaking about her fiance, and that's Riddick Moss. He also was released today. Depending on what they decide to do, if they're going to stay as a package or go separate. If they stay as a package, I think AEW picks up Moss and puts him on the contract. If they decide that they don't necessarily need to be in the same company, I think Riddick Moss would be another perfect fit for the NWA. Someone that I believe would work really well with most of the roster that they have over there. I think he'd be a great pickup. He'd be another person that would almost be like a reclamation product that you could bring up from almost nothing and make him something. I think he'd be perfect there. Next up, one of the most shocking, Mustafa Ali. Now, Mustafa Ali has asked for his release, I think like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and was declined. Only for them to really never do anything with him. His biggest thing would have been either being part of Retribution, which was terrible, or the lead up to Kofi Mania where he gets injured. Maybe there's an alternate universe where Kofi Mania turns into Mustafa Mania, but it is WWE, so maybe this was going to be his fate all along. I'd love to see Mustafa Ali do kind of a hybrid deal where he works in AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Much like I said with Mansoor, I think he would be perfect for their junior division. I think he would put some new blood in there, some new challengers. There's only so many times that you could see Yo versus Takahashi or El Desperado versus Takahashi. Injecting new blood like Mustafa Ali would really spice that division up. Also, I mean, obviously AEW would be a perfect fit for him as well with the style he employs. I think he might get a little bit lost in the mix there, but I think he'd be great either way. I'd love to see him do a deal where he works with both. Next up, another one of the more shocking wrestlers that was released, Shelton Benjamin. Shelton's a guy that feels like he's always been there in WWE. Even though he was 7 years outside of the company, it just feels like from about 2002, 2003 till now, he was somebody that was always on TV. And the thing that always baffles me is why can't they have ever thought of something better to do with Shelton? I mean, he's a phenomenal talent. To me, I think he should have at least had one championship run with the big belt. I could be wrong, but I think Shelton Benjamin's awesome. I do think that he'll go back to New Japan Pro Wrestling if he does decide to stay wrestling. He might do some appearances in AEW. He might also go and be an agent. I think there's a high possibility that WWE just hires him right back in an agent role or a backstage role, and he kind of takes that path in his career. There's a very high chance that's going to happen. But I think his best bet, and where I think he might have the best impact, is going back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, getting in there with all of his former Suzuki Goon mates. I think he'd be great there. Now, last but not least, the most shocking name, at least for me on this list, that's Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler is another one of those guys that just feels like they've been there forever. I think he's been there since 2004. I read something today where Ziggler has the second most amount of WWE matches, only behind Kane. And how impressive is that? With all the people that have been through the company, the thousands and thousands of different names and the major stars, he's one of the guys that's had the most matches in that company. That just tells you how reliable he is, how good he's been for such a long period of time. And yeah, did he feel stale? Did he feel like they haven't done anything with him in probably half a decade? A little bit, yeah. I would have to say there is that. To me, I think this could be the freshening of Ziggler. I mean, obviously, he's probably going to go back to his real name, Nick Nemeth, and a good chance is he's going to go to AEW to either tag with his brother, Ryan, which I could see them doing, or being right there in the mix in AEW. I think he's a perfect guy to come in and give a spark to AEW, and they need a spark. After losing CM Punk, getting that bad negative press, it feels like they need something fresh. Dolph Ziggler would definitely be a guy that can help boost that roster. The amount of quality matches he can have on that card with anybody from Kenny Omega to Hangman Page to Darby Allin to Jay White, some of these matches they would just be phenomenal. I think we could definitely see a career renaissance for Dolph Ziggler. I think he could go out and basically show the world, just like he says in his song. With all that being said, let's go ahead and smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. YouTube's been doing a lot of really weird things, so it really would help me out if you did all that, guys. It really helps with the algorithm. If you made it all the way to the end, let me know a positive memory of anybody on this list, whether it be Aaliyah, whether it be Rick Boogs, Shanky, Mustafa Ali, Riddick Moss, anyone on here. Give me one positive memory you have of them in the comments. Let's keep it positive. I hope all the best for all these wrestlers. I think there's a chance that they all land on their feet and have successful careers, and that's what I would love to see. With that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat video.